Alright, hello everyone. Here's a video going over some examples for 10.2 Part 2. And you should have first watched the video of going over completing the square that I posted in Google Classroom. Alright, it was maybe like almost 3 minutes long, but I'm going to also go over it with these examples, alright? And so up at the top, I first put a reminder here of what the equations are. There's see, made a mistake here. All right, you should not have squares. Okay, so if you have x squared and then y on the other side, that is going to open up and down. All right, if you have y squared, your parabolas will open up left or right. Okay. One thing I want to mention is that in your notes, I believe it uses 4p, but we're going to stick with a, all right, so 4a, all right? Okay, so in this first example, you'll notice that we want to bring the 4x and the 4 to the other side, right? And because it's y squared, we're going to follow this format here, right? So you see how the y and the squared is on one side and the x is on the other side. That's why we're going to bring the 4x and the 4 to the other side. Okay, so we're going to start with that. Then on the left-hand side, what we're left with is y squared minus 4y, right? And I'm going to leave a little bit of space, okay? And, so we've got negative 4x minus 4, right? Now, when we do the completing the square process, this is going to be y squared minus 4y, and I'm going to do plus blank, because I know that I'm going to have to end up adding something, is equal to negative 4y minus, negative 4x minus 4 plus blank, right? Now, these are going to be the same, right? Because what you do to one side of the equation, you got to do the same to the other side to keep it balanced, all right? I also know that this is going to be a plus each time, all right? Because when I square something, right, even when I square a negative, it's always going to be positive, okay? So for completing the square, remember we start with this b value, right? So this is negative 4. And so we start by dividing that by 2, right? And that's negative 2. And then we take that result and then we square it, okay? And that's going to be a positive 4, right? So plus 4. All right, so completing the square is you take that negative 4, divide it by 2, always divide it by 2, and then square it, okay? And so if I add 4 on the left, I've got to add 4 here on the right side. Okay. Now this is called completing the square because now when you look at, I know it's getting messy here, when you look at this trinomial, right, this factors to y minus 2 and y minus 2. Or another way of writing that is y minus 2 squared, right? That's why it's called completing the square, because we're factoring to the square. Now on the right-hand side, the negative 4 plus 4 cancels out to 0. Now that's not going to happen every time. It's just for this example. And so here we get equals negative 4x. All right. Now what that really means though, right, another way to write that, that's going to be y minus 2 squared is equal to negative 4, and that's going to be x minus 0 or x plus 0. It doesn't really matter. Okay. Now we want to write it like that because it's going to tell us some information, right? This is y squared, and we know it's going to open up left or right. The negative tells us that this is going to open left. All right. The vertex is at h comma k. H and k. So your vertex is at 0 comma 2. Okay. The a value, right? So we've got -4, right? Now remember, this is actually made up of 4a, right? Now I'm gonna drop the negative for now, okay? Because the negative really just tells us that it opens left, okay? The a value is really the absolute value, okay? So the 4 is a representation of 4a, which means that a is going to equal 1, right? And that's really important because if the focus is at 0, 2, we need the a value to figure out where everything else is, okay? So now I'm going to draw and sketch the graph. So I started by plotting my vertex point at 0, 2. Since it opens left and my a value is 1, I'm going to go 1 unit to the left, and that's where my focus is, right? The focus is going to be at -1, 2, right? The directrix is going to be 1 unit to the right of the vertex, okay? And that's going to be this vertical line here, right? Now, as I said in class, the directrix is going to be a solid line. I'm drawing a dotted line, and I'm sorry, this is a terrible line here. I'm drawing a dotted line to try to make it more accurate, all right? The other thing I want to remind you of is that the directrix is always going to be an equation, right? So this is at 1, so x equals 1. So you should not write just 1, you should be writing x equals 1, okay? I also said in class that if you want to draw a more accurate parabola, right, if your a value is 1, then 2a is going to be equal to 2, right, if you multiply by 2. And that's how much you're going to go up and down from the focus to have these guiding points, right? That's going to be up here at -1, 4 and at -1, 0. All right. So now when we draw the parabola, starting here at the vertex, we're going to make sure that we go through those points, all right, like that. Okay. So there's your parabola, right? We have the vertex, we have the focus, we got the directrix equation, and we sketched the parabola. All right, here in number 2, I started it for you. There's nothing to add or subtract over because x squared is on one side and the y is on the other side. I know that I'm going to have these blanks, right? Plus blank and plus blank. And when we complete the square, okay, I'm going to take this 8, I'm going to divide by 2, and then square it, right? So that's going to be 4, and then 4 squared is 16. So if I add 16 here on the left, I'm going to add 16 here on the right. Okay. So now when I look at this trinomial, right, this is going to be x plus 4 times x plus 4, or that's going to be x plus 4 squared, right? And over on the right hand side, I'm going to add 8 and 16. So that's 24. Okay. Now, on the right hand side, the variable x or y should not have the coefficient directly attached to it. So what that means is, for this problem, I'm going to take out a factor of 4, right? That's my greatest common factor, right? And this would be y plus 6. Okay. So there it is. That's my equation of the parabola, right? Again, 4 represents 4a, right? So again, a is equal to 1, right? The vertex, and let's make this blue. Okay, the vertex is going to be at h comma k. So at -4, -6. All right, and at this point, well, also x squared, right, means that it's going to open up or down, right? And since this is a positive coefficient, this 4, right, this is going to open up. Okay, it opens up. All right, so I'm going to start drawing the parabola here. So I've plotted my vertex here at -4, -6. I know that since it opens up, my focus is going to be 1 unit above the vertex because A is 1. And so the focus is going to be here, right? And I'm going to make sure I write that down. Okay, you'll be asked to provide all this stuff. So that's going to be at -4, -5. And the directrix, right, is going to be a horizontal line. So I'm going to go 1 unit below the vertex. Okay, and it's going to go like this, right? And that's going to be at y equals -7. Okay. And again, if you want a more accurate parabola, remember the a value is 1. So then 2a is going to be 2. And so that value of 2, that's how much you're going to go to the left and to the right of the focus. All right. So I'm going to go 2 units left. That's over here. 2 units to the right, over here, and that's how we are going to draw this parabola. Right? And there it is. Okay? Okay, so I skipped number 3. You can go back, you can take a look at that when I post the solutions later for the notes. But what I did here, so for number 4, all right, I'm going to have to bring this -12x to the other side because you need the variables together, all right? And so I end up with x squared plus 12x, right? I know that I'm going to complete the square, so I'm going to have these blanks here, okay? And so when I go through this process, the 12, when I divide by 2 and then square it, I end up with 36, right? So I'm going to add 36 to both sides. Okay. Now the left-hand side, you end up getting y plus 6 and x plus 6 and x plus 6, and that's going to be x plus 6 quantity squared, right? And on the right-hand side, you have -y plus 36. Okay. Now, we can't have this as a -y. We're actually going to take out a -1, all right? And so we're going to end up with x plus 6 quantity squared is equal to -1. And then this is going to be y minus 36. All right. So the vertex, all right, the vertex is at h comma k, h and k. So -6 comma 36. All right. The a value, right, now this -1, remember -1 represents 4a, right? And so a is going to be -1/4 or -0.25. All right. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to backtrack a little bit. So we don't want the negative, right? Since a is an absolute value. Okay. So when we set that up, we're going to drop the negative sign. Right. So a is 1/4. Okay. And so when we graph this, all right, and I'm gonna start this for you, and I've plotted my vertex point here. It's way up here, right? -6 comma 36, right? Because it's x squared, right? I know that this is gonna open up or down, all right? And because it's negative here, right, it's going to open down, all right? Opens down. Which means your focus is going to be right underneath this vertex, right? Right here, that's going to be the focus, and the directrix is above it, right? So at this line right here, okay? Now, since the a value was only 1/4 or 0.25, that means that my focus and directrix points are here, right? It opens down, and it goes this way, all right?